It's time to go racing once again in the Euroformula Open Championship. We are at Circuit Paul Ricard in Le Castellet for the second of our races this weekend. The first of our top 6 reverse grid races at 5.842 kilometers in length. Yifei set the lap record here back in 2020. See if any of the guys can challenge that one. Maybe they can if conditions hold out. The race has been declared wet. We have the cars on the grid, but to me it looks like they're still out there on slick tyres. So they have the option to go to wets if they want to. Let's take a look back at what happened in yesterday's race one. Brad Benavides from pole position, the championship leader, not getting away at all. Jakob Bergmeister hit the front. Levente Revesh and Francesco Simonazzi went side by side into Le Bousset for second position. The Hungarian pulling one of the moves of the season. Fernando Barrichello had a little bit of an off on the exit of Le Bousset as Brad Benavides tried to find his way back through the field. He would end up passing the Brazilian into Virage Dupont, an aggressive move from the Floridian as he recovered after that poor start that dropped him to the rear of the field. Benavides continued to fight through, then passing Simonazzi into Le Bousset, and the Italian left the door open for Fifo Barrichello to find his way through as well. But young Jakob Bergmeister was unchallenged up at the front. He took his first ever single-seater win and continued the Bergmeister name in the racing world as race winners. Brad Benavides leads the standings now by 70 points to Francesco Simonazzi. Jakob Bergmeister third in the standings, 20 points further back, 18 ahead of Levente Revesh. So race 2 about to get underway then, and here is how they will line up. It's Paolo Brajnik, the Gold Club driver, who will start on reverse grid pole ahead of Francesco Simonazzi, with Fernando Barrichello and Brad Benavides starting on the second row of the grid. Further back we have Levente Revesh and yesterday's race winner Jakob Bergmeister. Enzo Richer didn't finish his Euroformula Open debut yesterday owing to a sensor fire that caused him to park the car up prematurely. He'll be looking to make up ground from 7th position. The formation lap is underway. Chris Stevens and George Morgan in the commentary box. And George, the session has been declared wet, but looks like they're all out there on slick tyres, so we need to keep an eye on those skies.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously not considering the current conditions to be as risky enough to warrant the use of the wet compound of tyre, but we'll have to wait and see whether that still will remain the case or whether we will see an actual pit stop midway through this 30-minute encounter. Paolo Brajnik, though, at the head of the field for the Gold Cup class, so it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on. Obviously leading the way from the very start. He's got a sea of cars looking to strike a potential opportunity through turn 1. Obviously a great chance here for Simonazzi to retort back after a difficult day yesterday, obviously off the back of having to, join very late on in the weekend. Remember, of course, qualifying, those were his first minutes out there in Paul Ricard. Wasn't here for the free practice sessions on Thursday, so very much had to think on his feet and learn off the back of qualifying, and hopefully he'll see this as a chance now to really show what he can do. Obviously danger points, obviously Brad Benavides, despite stalling like he did off the start last time out, managing to clamber back for a 3rd place and also took the fastest lap and grabbed the extra point for that too. So plenty on offer, plenty of danger points, though the big question is, how is Jakob Bergmeister going to carry on after that sensational performance that granted him victory yesterday? It's been a long time coming. He's been on the podium several times before, but now a win under his belt could do wonders for his confidence.
Well, I believe he debuted his new helmet this weekend as well, which is mirroring the colours that his grandfather Willie raced when he was in touring cars back in the day, and that seems to have brought him a bit of luck, actually. Well, he seems to think so anyway, but we'll see where young Jakob goes from 6th on the grid. Of course, Simonazzi learning with every turn of the wheel so far. He did not take part in those free practice sessions, as you mentioned, George, was sitting an exam on Friday morning, which meant that his first laps of the weekend were in qualifying. Very unusual situation. Does explain why he sort of fell back a little bit in the race, because other drivers had more experience of how the tyres were going to handle this circuit. There is Paolo Brajnik, the former Superbike racer, the Superbike champion in European Superbikes and Italian Superbikes. gentleman class driver, as he finished 6th yesterday. He does line up on reverse grid pole, and it will be Francesco Simonazzi from BVM Racing starting alongside him. Rubens Barrichello watching on. There's evidence of the rain on his shirt there, we can see, so it is still spitting out there, it would seem. Engine notes rise, we have all 5 lights on. And we are racing in Paul Ricard, but few stalls on the grid. Simonazzi didn't get away, neither did Fernando Barrichello. Brajnik did just about get it off the line, but it's Brad Benavides who's the big mover. He goes into 2nd place, challenging Levente Revesh on the outside. No, the Hungarian stands his ground on the inside and takes back position. So it is Brajnik, Revesh and Benavides. And then it looks like Bergmeister has been able to file his way through into 4th position with Enzo Richer, the rookie, up into 5th.
Absolutely coming through turns 5 and 6 now. Brad Benavides smelling a chance perhaps on Levente Revesh. Remember Revesh last time out managing to take 2nd place, and was a great feat on his part. Was trying to get closer to Jakob Bergmeister towards the tail end, but was unable to unlock that delta in the closing stages. Brajnik now takes them down the long Mistral straight, but getting closer and closer comes Levente Revesh. Brad Benavides might look to take advantage as well. We could yet go 3 wide here in this affair, and obviously as we head into the Mistral chicane, Revesh now leads the way, but into Brad Benavides, a double overtake of sorts, down 2 places, the Gold Cup driver, Paolo Brajnik.
Brajnik, a car on the inside, car on the outside there, did well to leave that chicane unscathed, really. As we see Simonazzi trying to round Enzo Richer through Scene Corner, and he did get that move done on the young Frenchman, Fernando Barrichello, trying to find his way through as well on the 18-year-old, and pulling the same move he managed to do yesterday into Le Bousset, but a rough ride over the curbs for Richer on the exit of Le Bousset, and he continues on his way still, but now it's Simonazzi's turn to round up Brajnik, as he's already done Bergmeister. How on earth did he do that? Well, we didn't see it, but he's pulled a very rapid move, and now he's going for a 3rd one on this lap, this time on Paolo Brajnik, to get himself up into 3rd position. There we can see it is raining. It is really starting to rain now on the front straight at the very least. It's side by side between Bergmeister, Brajnik and Barrichello in there as well, trying to take 2 in 1 maneuver, and again Brajnik has got to watch both sides of his car at the same time as Bergmeister and Barrichello go through.
Yeah, Bergmeister was in danger there. Barrichello looked like he had a chance to challenge. He might try again, heading through Hotel Chicane, can't quite find it, and look in the rear as well. We haven't yet forgotten about Enzo Richer down for the back of the rain. The deluge starting to cascade down for the skies, and there we have it. Enzo Richer and Paolo Brajnik meet on the escape coming out of Hotel through turns 5 and 6. They got caught up under the wet conditions. We've gone from dry to vastly slick in a matter of moments.
Enzo Richer in the worst possible place there at the worst possible time. We just see at the top of screen they have got going again, but of course several seconds now behind the leading pack. Revesh leading by a second over Brad Benavides, and then Simonazzi 1.6 seconds back, with Bergmeister a couple of seconds behind them as well. We're going to say again, I mean, look how much rain there is out there. And Brajnik, he's already gone in deep, gets it on the curb, no grip out there at all, and poor Enzo's got nowhere to go.
In terms of actual cosmetic damage, they might have got away with it a little bit. I'm not sure whether there has been some issues in terms of front wings as we now watch the front end of the order. Brad Benavides now down into 2nd, it would seem. There's Revesh, who's currently at the top of the...
It's way closer now.
It is.
Look at it.
Yeah, just look at it. And the rain doesn't seem to be affecting Sector 3 that much. It's all in Sector 1, I think.
Potentially. Can't see too much rain out there. It does seem to be earlier in the lap, but well, it was 1 second at the start of the lap, and yeah, Revesh has suddenly got Brad Benavides, championship leader, for very close company. Simonazzi's looking very confident in these conditions as well, but they head back into the wetter section of the racetrack, and this is going to be tippy-toe stuff through here, especially through the first couple of corners, while trying to go side by side with the championship leader. Very brave stuff, and Revesh has a few swappers. He has to cut across the escape road. And I'm sure I'll be looking in the mirror to see how much ground did I gain, how much do I need to give back to make sure I don't get a penalty, because they were side by side going into the corner. There's a good 1.5 seconds between them when they came out of it.
Well, you can guarantee that Benavides is going to be looking for some of that time to be brought back in. Simonazzi has done a marvellous job. These are conditions that favour the Italian stallion. He was hoping for rain coming into the weekend. We caught up with him yesterday. He's hoping for a little bit of wet weather so he can really flex his muscles. We know how flamboyant he is behind the wheel of these Dallara 320 chassis. This is such an opportunity for Francesco should he be able to unlock it. And he's getting closer and closer all the time. Remember, of course, only showing up for qualifying, essentially. That was his practice session as well as his qualifying session, and now coming in after race 1 yesterday with every chance, despite stalling at the start.
So Revesh out of the Mistral chicane. Doesn't seem to have given back any of that time, really, does he? 1.4 seconds is the gap. 2.5 seconds covers the top 3. Less than that now, just 2 seconds covering the top 3 as they made their way through Scene Corner, which thankfully seems to be one of the drier sections of the racetrack. I would dread to think what going through there on slick tyres in the rain would be like. It's closing up again already, and Revesh might be under pressure once again into turn number 1.
We've seen what the wet weather can do at Bousset earlier on in the day, really.
Yeah, that was the wetter part of the track. There was definitely some water in the curb there that Simonazzi just kicked up. Car 11 must give the lead to Brad Benavides because he cut the turn 2 on that previous lap, and now he's been told he has to give that position back. Well, the first time this weekend we've seen some of that. We've seen it in some of the GT races that are also here this weekend as well. But yep, Levente Revesh will get the message. He hasn't got it yet because he's defending into the first corner and approaching the corner with a bit more caution. And look at the spray that Benavides kicks up when he goes over the curbing on the left-hand side. But he has been told, has Revesh, he's got to give that position back. He has a little wiggle under braking, has to cut the chicane again. So does Simonazzi. I mean, it's really coming down out there now. I wouldn't be surprised. And also, I think that's Jakob Bergmeister and Fernando Barrichello all going. Benavides is the only one who's on the racetrack at the moment.
There's a contrast of conditions. Simonazzi, you just see there giving the place back to Brad Benavides. Obviously, didn't want to gain anything, given the fact that he ventured off track coming through out of Hotel. Still at the front though, Revesh once again surely has to give positions back, surely has to give that delta back that he obviously gained coming through that section now. But Simonazzi started to gain on the back of Brad Benavides here this time. Like I said, contrasting conditions throughout 2 different separate sectors of the circuit. On one side we've got relative dry conditions, but on the other side it's so wet. An entire deluge has fallen since the start of the very race. Further back we can obviously see Jakob Bergmeister trying to get closer, Fernando Barrichello trying to get closer as well as they come through turn 10 at Scene Corner. There's Benavides, who has now managed to move up the order, relentlessly now trying to pressurise Levente Revesh, trying to marginalise the delta, and it has come down just over 0.7 of a second, and Benavides is closing.
Yeah, I think I thought he was finally going to give it back, but he's still defending, is Levente Revesh. So the top 3 are really close up now, though. Throw a blanket over these 3 cars as it stands. But we have just about to end lap number 4. Oh, I thought Simonazzi was going to go for a dive there on the inside of Virage Dupont, but this is the lead battle coming across the timing line. 4th lap to be completed, 11 to go, and Revesh still hugging that inside line, watching in his mirrors to see where Benavides is. I mean, if he hasn't received the message, then why hasn't he? And also, if he has, why isn't he giving the place up to Benavides?
Well, and plus he's doing BVM Racing a huge favour here because it's bringing Francesco Simonazzi into the fight, and now he's going to try and challenge Brad Benavides coming into Hotel side by side. Simonazzi backs out somewhat. Obviously, this is one of the slickest parts of the track. Simonazzi still favouring the outside. He'll have the inside coming through towards turn 6, later turn 7. But yes, it's still Benavides in second. Simonazzi getting closer and closer with every turn.
And it's funny you mentioned it's doing them BVM Racing a massive favour, of course, the 2 motorpark cars that are leading. And of course, Levente Revesh and Jakob Bergmeister came together in Budapest just a few weeks ago. That basically gave Simonazzi the lead straight from the off, and he never looked back. So, yeah, it's not the first time that Simonazzi has gained from a bit of motorpark squabbling. Down into the chicane once again. Benavides just managed to draw an overlap there under braking, and Simonazzi having to take some slight avoiding action as Benavides tries to line himself up. I mean, he's still going to have to put a bona fide overtake on here, and he's on the blue stuff on the outside of the circuit. Now, has he just found himself the inside line for Scene Corner? Yes, he has, but Revesh is not going to take that line down, and Benavides, well, he goes off the circuit. Benavides slightly compromised, and Simonazzi fancies a sniff into Labuse. Really, we do have to wonder, why is Revesh still leading this race? He's been told, give back the position.
You can't help but think that Simonazzi's licking his lips right now. He's all over the back of Brad Benavides, and I must say, Brad Benavides must be absolutely seething in his cockpit right now. I'm not sure whether he's received the message, but he'll get a message off Francesco Simonazzi, who's going to run wheel-to-wheel with him now through Garliban and through Della Torre as well. Wheel-to-wheel, BVM heading through now into the pond corner. The Italian stallion looking to pounce upon the Floridian as they'll run wheel-to-wheel down towards turn 1. It is still, though, out in front. Levente Revesh still not foregoing the position at this stage. They head down towards turn 1. We're currently watching Bergmeister now back to the action as Simonazzi opens the door, takes the long way round through turn 1. Wheel to wheel they'll stay. Once again Benavides defends, but Simonazzi will be back, I'm sure of it.
Top 2 of the championship going wheel to wheel there for a few corners. That's absolutely great stuff. But if Simonazzi overtakes Benavides, then Revesh is surely going to have to give up 2 positions and allow a rival team into the lead of the race, into what is the very treacherous part of the track. Lock up from Revesh there. Benavides had a sniff up the inside. Benavides he's got 2 cabs on at once. He's having to defend hard from Simonazzi, but also attack his teammate in front of him. But I don't think Revesh or Benavides got the best of runs down the Mistral hit. Simonazzi looking a fair bit closer with 10 laps remaining. Heading towards the chicane once again. Simonazzi looking to the inside. No, he can't do anything there. And again, Benavides lining him up through that chicane. This is the part of the track where he's been really, really fast. We've had a change of position. Barrichello has gone through on Bergmeister into 4th position in the middle of the hotel chicane. We are side by side once again. This time Benavides on the outside of Scene Corner and gets shown the curbing. And with all that water in there, I'm sure he had to back out of that one, because had he tried to turn, he probably would have spun the car around. But look at the run around Labuse. Absolutely nailed Revesh around the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. Team managers for car 11, Levente Revesh, actually were called to race control immediately. Now Simonazzi is going to take his chance as well. He's going to run side by side with the Hungarian as they now make their way through Della Torre, just getting all mixed up over the curbs as well, and that's going to hamper his run. Heading through out of Garliban, through towards Della Torre, through towards the pump, but Revesh, defiant nonetheless, still remains in second with a nose in front. Simonazzi can't stop him and still stays in 3rd, but he might still yet have an attack down through towards turn 1. Here's the move, Chris.
Well, if he's finally let Benavides through, he picked an interesting spot to do it in. Otherwise, yeah, great move from Benavides. Simonazzi now on the inside going into turn number 1. Simonazzi through into 2nd place ahead of Levente Revesh. There was a staunch defence from the Hungarian, but now it's all rather coming undone as he's now lost 2 positions. Well, that sounded like a lock-up for Benavides going into the hotel chicane. He's gone straight off the track, and he's had to take that little cut through there as well. Now, I don't think he'll be told to give up track position, because he was over a second clear of Simonazzi when he had that moment. He says he has gained quite a bit of ground doing it. Yes, now 4 seconds ahead as they head onto the Mistral.
Yeah, stunning purple sector, has to be said. 33.099 as on part of Brad Benavides. But it has to be said that Simonazzi has fought his way back through the field. Remember, stalling the car at the very start, but has recovered very quickly as they now head down through towards the Mistral chicane. Again, a little look there from Levente Revesh. But we have now got a situation where we've got the 2 championship leaders, now 1 and 2, here in race 2 at Paul Ricard. Don't forget, we have, of course, another reverse grid race coming up later on this afternoon to close out the weekend as they now head through towards Scene Corner at turn 10. The Italian now up to 2nd, just behind Brad Benavides, and we'll have to keep watching the interval times to see how they change, how they fluctuate. 2.3 now the gap between Simonazzi and Benavides.
Brashnik's brought his car into pit lane, by the way, so we've got 6 running left out there on the track. Enzo Richer 31 seconds off of their lead after being collected by Brashnik when The Serbian had his spin earlier on. You see Barrichello and Bergmeister still dueling. Benavides now 2.3 seconds to the good over Simonazzi. See if these guys can get a clean flying lap in, then let's see what the pace difference actually is between these two. But 8 laps to go. The gap is continuing to come down. Simonazzi took a bit more time out of him in that final sector. The overall lap still quicker for Benavides, though he did cut the chicane that we're coming up to now last time around. So yeah, let's see if they can both keep it on the track, what both of them have actually got in terms of raw speed.
It's exceptionally greasy out there. Of course, many of the drivers really struggling for grip. Of course, we saw Benavides earlier on running exceptionally wide, but seemingly recovered. Rain lights are on the cars as well.
But the rain does seem to have stopped,
It
George,
does.
crucially. So it's only going to get drier now, it looks like.
Which is good news if you're on the slick tyres. And it's how you handle then an evolutive... Well, I'm trying to figure out the correct word for this, but as the track evolves from wet to dry, of course, that carries its own challenges as well, because obviously some of the rubber on the tyres, you've got to try and get that back up to temperature. All of a sudden, there's going to be quite a temperature deficit, I would say, between a wet scenario to a dry scenario.
Yeah, and of course, they rock up at a corner. You don't actually know how much grip you're going to have. But the good news is that it's going in the right direction, and that the grip should be going up. The real challenge is when the grip starts going down, like we saw earlier. That's why you see drivers fly off the road when it starts.
He's closed it again, though. Simonazzi 1.8.
Yep, another couple of tenths on that in that middle sector. Saw the Motorpark team watching on there. See Barrichello closing in on Revesh as well, 0.8 of a second behind the Hungarian.
Podium fights as well, big chance here. Ruben's watching on in the Motorpark garage, and it would obviously be quite a grand occasion for Fernando to battle up against Levente Revesh. Obviously, we saw Revesh trying to defend against Benavides relentlessly earlier on, and then foregoing a place to Simonazzi. But now it seems that the Brazilian, who has taken part the very foundations of his single-seater racing career, coming in Brazilian F4, and now here in the Euroformula Open Championship, with a great chance here to put himself onto the podium at the expense of one Levente Revesh as they now head down towards turn 1.
Barrichello going for his second podium finish in the Euroformula Open Championship after scoring a maiden podium at the second reverse grid race in Budapest a few weeks ago. No,
rain coming down again.
Yeah, the rain, I spoke too soon a lap ago, didn't I? Because the rain has started once again. It's been so on-off all day, really. And even when it starts, you think, oh, it's not really, it's not heavy enough to need an umbrella. And then by the time you're done saying that sentence, your umbrella needs to be up because you're getting soaked.
And Bergmeister on the tail of these now, too. So it's all of a sudden becomes a 3-car scramble with 2 cars, of course, that we saw originally. Levente Revesh, Fernando Barrichello getting closer and closer. Let's take a look at a slow-mo replay. There is Fernando, FIFO at the wheel. And the very familiar light blue, sky blue and yellow painted livery. As we now rejoin the front, and Simonazzi still chopping at that wood, and with 7 laps to go. Should I say 11 minutes and 57 on the clock as well. 1.6 seconds. It's come down by 2/10 here, Chris. And even more so, I think.
Yeah, Barrichello can just continue to chip away at that gap, as is Simonazzi, 1.6 seconds, as you mentioned there. George going into the
1.5
third sector. Yeah, Simonazzi continuing to close the gap. 6.5 laps remaining. And we'll see if Simonazzi can bring this one home. There does seem to be a massive pace differential between the sectors. Barrichello seems quite good in this section of the track. Seems to really claw back some time on Revesh. Whereas by the time they get back onto the Mistral, Revesh has pulled a gap again. And Barrichello actually looked like he was more in the clutches of Bergmeister in that previous lap. You see a good shot of Bergmeister's new helmet, one we were talking about at the top of the show, that is the same colours of his grandfather, Willie. Of course, Bergmeister, a big racing family. His father, his uncle, his grandfather, his great-grandfather as well, all racing drivers or motorcycle racers. His great-grandfather was. We see, look, very evenly matched now between Rivesh and Barrichello as we head into the wetter section of the racetrack once again. The rain has restarted. We saw a lap ago, and they're on tenterhooks through here, out there on slick tyres, making sure they build enough tyre temperature in the drier section of the racetrack to survive this part of the racetrack, because we see by the time they get onto, oh, big swap of Simonazzi though! Going on to the Mistral, did he just hang on to it? Yes, he did. A good save there from Francesco Simonazzi. Barrichello had his own little off down there as well, but that was a catch of the season from Simonazzi, who's now all that work that he's just done trying to claw down that gap has been undone.
It certainly has. Not ideal. We just saw him tear off one of the visor strips as well as he looks to try and give himself some clear vision. FIFA also running wide as well, slightly coming out of turn 7, but not enough to hinder him at all. He's still very much in proximity of Levente Rivesh, and all of a sudden, the podium battle could yet constrain down to 3 drivers, as opposed to Brad Benavides being part of this fight. Let's watch this replay again. Wow! Look at that extension coming out of turn 7.
There was more moments than that. There was the other shot we saw, it went about 3 times. If Francesco can save the onboard of that one, I think he would like to keep that one, and if you could put videos in a frame and hang it on the wall, then he would do that, because that was a heck of a save right there.
Yeah, quite the wheel twist as well on part of Simonazzi, as well as FIFO Barrichello coming through out of Garlaban and through to Delator, now coming through Pont. Once again, drawing closer. It does seem that he fancies himself in that sector 3, does Barrichello, and still getting close to the back of Levente Rivesh as they now head down towards turn 1 again. Simonazzi once again going to work at the deficit, but is now strung out to 2.6 as opposed to the 1.4 or 1.5 that we saw earlier on, so has lost a second overall just due to that off coming out of turn 7, which is less than ideal as we now head down into the wetter part of the circuit.
Tippy-toeing through here. It's like a lottery every time they come through here, because you just hear the engines rev up and the wheels spinning right there. And it does seem like, yeah, the wetter section started to extend to this part of the racetrack as well. Barrichello goes for a spin though, out of turn 6, and he's going to lose position here to Jakob Bergmeister. He gets it going again, a 360 for the Brazilian, but yeah, it just goes to show conditions still very treacherous.
It certainly does. Take a look at it again, just rear stepping out, just got off onto the paint on the right-hand side, and it does get quite slick out there, and unfortunately for Fernando, has to self-right himself. Bergmeister heading on through. And
of course, that's normally supposed to be a very highly abrasive, high-grip surface, but clearly with a bit of water on it, it doesn't have all that much grip, as it lit up those rear tyres. Heading back through Scene Corner.
Rivesh now with a bit of a respite, and he can now focus more on Simonazzi in front and potentially challenge to get that P2 back that he had before, but it's going to be quite the task. Only 5 laps to go, and Brad Benavides still out in front and in charge. Looking at the sector times, no real gains for Simonazzi in sector 2 or sector 1, though he did go approximately 4 hundredths faster than Benavides out of sector 1. That 2.6 is going to need to come down rather quickly if he wants to try and challenge his championship competitor, as the points gap enlarged after yesterday's race places it once again in the firm hands of Brad Benavides, with the Floridian looking to sail away with a championship. Another little moment there for Francesco Simonazzi. The rear end is stepping out, coming through towards turn 1, and again coming over the curbs.
Yeah, you can hear the rain now, can't you? Out there, it's really starting to hammer down. If we get through these remaining 4 laps without incident, I'll be shocked, because they are really earning their money out there.
It's a credit to the drivers,
today.
really.
It really is. There's some of these guys that are so young as well. Like, you know, Rivesh at just like 19 years old. Quite a bit of experience in single-seaters, but he's really doing a great job out there. Young Jakob as well, who hasn't put a foot wrong in this race so far, and Okay, we haven't seen if Enzo Richer's been off the track, but you know, this is his first Euroformula race, and he's been met with these conditions. Yeah, not an easy task at all for any of these drivers out there, and drivers like Francesco Simonazzi and Brad Benavides are leaning on every single minute of experience they have to survive these conditions, and we're seeing the experience is paying off well, because they're the ones at the front of the field in this race. This championship where we've seen so many young future talents coming through the ranks, and we will continue to do so in 2024 as well, with the arrival of the Dallara 324 chassis that has already been racing in Japan. Toyota Power coming for next year as well, so we've got 10 new cars and 12 upgraded 320s as well to 324 specification. So we do have a very exciting grid in prospect for next year. Faster car as well, more power, 275 brake horsepower compared to the 240 from the Spice engine we have now. That's coming from just a 1.6 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder engine prepared by Tom's. Hugely excited about that, and of course bringing Toyota back to the Euroformula, because they were a part of this championship all the way back from the Spanish Formula 3 days. You can trace this championship back to from 2001, and they were supplying engines all the way up to 2020.
Yeah, Barrichello making a move on Bergmeister, taking the place back that he lost, and Bergmeister having a little twitch coming out of turn 6. Or should I say the initial stage of the lap, I should say, is now Barrichello comes on through, and a great move to be made, obviously, taking advantage. Obviously, Bergmeister having a little slip coming out of turn 2. The rear end just stepping out slightly as they now venture into the slickest part of the track, and you can actually see the dry line appearing after the Mistral chicane coming through and towards turn 10. It's the most bizarre thing we've seen, I think, so far this weekend. The fact that we've got rain in one portion of the circuit, but the rest almost bone dry.
Rivesh now fancies a run at Simonazzi, who has a swapper and has to cut the chicane. Rivesh barely made the chicane himself. Simonazzi might have to give back a little bit at that time. Now, I wonder if he'll be told to give back a place. As we see Barrichello, he went through the chicane as well, and he went through the subsequent little chicane. Oh, so did Bergmeister. Everyone's going off at the moment. And it does seem like the rain is now spreading across the circuit. Well, of course, it's a very elongated circuit, isn't it? So the rain's arrived at the sort of turn 5, turn 6 region.
And it's going to come towards the Bousset.
It's now made its way over towards the Mistral, and presumably will soon end up in the third sector as well. Well, yeah,
looks like it is.
It already has, by the looks of it. So, yeah, now we have a fully wet racetrack, which, if anything, is probably easier to deal with, conversely.
Well, at least you don't have to pretty much bring to the table two separate driving styles into the race as such, because obviously it's very different driving in the wet as opposed to the dry. And as I said before, we did have that dry line coming out of the Mistral chicane in towards turn 10. Well, I can only imagine that's going to disappear as now Brad Benavides comes through turn 1. There's Simonazzi, the gap now at 2.2, so it is down a little bit despite Simonazzi taking an off track, as again Laventia Ravesh spills off onto the paint and rushes down and gains time on Simonazzi as a result.
There are 247 different layouts of the circuit, Paul Ricard. Well, I think we can add about 30 of them now, with the way these guys have been driving around the track in this race. Certainly none of them FIA approved, or indeed circuit approved either. So Benavides, a little twitch out of turn 6, survives through there. This is where Simonazzi had that big swapper a few laps ago. A lap and a half remains. Just keep it on the island, boys.
I can see Carsten Tilke with his drawing pen in hand after seeing what we've seen already through the course of this race. But absolutely sensational effort, though, from Brad Benavides to clamber himself up the order. Simonazzi recovering after the stall at the very start. Laventia Ravesh, who held the lead for a good portion, now within a second of Simonazzi. And again, car 11 under investigation for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. That is not the first time we have seen that in this race.
Or for Ravesh either.
Well, no. Well, exactly the same for Ravesh, pretty much. Obviously, he had to report to race control before at least his team manager did. As now we watch Simonazzi head through Bousset once more. Obviously this time the wet weather making an appearance. You just see him stretching off, and look at that rear end stepping out again, and it applied a little bit of hope then to Levente Revesh, who still continues to get a little closer, but you do have to wonder what the reprimand could yet be for Levente Revesh leaving the track on another occasion and gaining that advantage.
So 1 lap remaining when they get over the timing line. Simonazzi's just got to keep this on the island, hang on to second place. Still damage limitation in terms of the championship for the Italian, but also, oh, no, Simonazzi had a poor run through Virage Dupont, and Revesh just went straight through into second place, which might now complicate this investigation for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. But we are now on the final lap. Benavides leads by 4.6 seconds to now Levente Revesh. Simonazzi down to third as they head through out of turn 2 and now towards the hotel chicane once again. And if anything, it's looking, I was about to say, slightly drier at that section of the track, but then we actually get to the chicane itself and you just see the water pouring off the back of these cars. I mean, if they were on the wet tyres, we would be seeing all sorts of spray being kicked up. But, of course, we're still on the slicks. The race was declared wet before we even got going, but it was nowhere near bad enough to need the wet tyres. I dare say they'd be asking for them if we started the race right now. Tippy-toeing through some of the high-speed, longer corners. But there is Brad Benavides, our championship leader, stalled off the line yesterday. Levente Revesh will be investigated after the race as Benavides has his own little off-track excursion now at the chicane. And here we're going to see again what happened with Simonazzi. So he goes out of frame in second place and then comes back into frame in third place. So just had his own... there we go. So he went wide, had a swap up. And Revesh with the clean run was able to find his way through. But back with the race leader, Benavides, who has more than made up for the disappointment of yesterday, where he was delighted. The birthday pole position, celebrating his 23rd birthday in style, but was disappointed after stalling the car and only finishing third in the end, which was still a great recovery drive, but you could tell he wanted more, and he has definitely made up for it in this race as Brad Benavides, the championship leader, comes up towards Virage Dupont. Now, he has survived treacherous conditions in this race, has another final little wiggle, but he meets the checkered flag first and takes victory in race 2 at Circuit Paul Ricard in the Euroformula Open Championship. It is his 6th win of the season. Revesh in second position, but he is under investigation ahead of Francesco Simonazzi. Fernando Barrichello was in the podium fight, but that spin did cost him. And Jakob Bergmeister, yesterday's race winner, a lowly 5th for the young German. And then we will wait quite some time for Enzo Richer to make his way to the checkered flag. He's only just on the run up to Scene Corner now. But a great race once again from Brad Benavides.
Yeah, tremendous effort, and that's his 8th consecutive podium finish since Spa race 1. Obviously, prior to that, Hockenheim race 3, he finished 5th. But Brad Benavides back in tow, back on top for the first time this weekend at Paul Ricard. Could yet go back-to-back when we head to race 3. We'll wait and see. That is still to come, yet another reverse grid scenario. But Levente Revesh, his investigation will be ongoing after the end of the race. So sit tight. We could yet see a late twist over second place, everybody. But a phenomenal performance on part of Brad Benavides, bouncing back. He had the stall yesterday. Today he had to make up a fair number of places. Take us to the results, Chris.
Brad Benavides for the 6th time this season on top. He was 4.9 clear of Levente Revesh in the end, who provisionally scores his 5th podium of the season ahead of Francesco Simonazzi. Fernando Barrichello was in the podium fight, as we mentioned, but only 4th in the end, ahead of Jakob Bergmeister, Enzo Richer. We lost our reverse grid pole sitter, Paolo Brajnik. So Benavides extends his lead in the championship to 82 points now, and Simonazzi pulling further clear of Bergmeister as well, with Levente Revesh closing in there. Only 9 points behind the German now for third position. Fernando Barrichello into fifth position now in the standings, ahead of Michael Shin, who we expect to see out later in the season once again. The cars back in pit lane. And Benavides will pull up into that number one spot. Gives a thumbs up to the Motor Park boys as he passes the garage. And for now, he will be joined on the podium by Francesco and by Levente Revesh, but of course that is being investigated. I think the worst that might happen is that Levente loses second place, because with like a 5-second time penalty, he would still be ahead of Fernando Barrichello, but we'll wait to hear from the stewards room. I'm sure we'll have an update for you with race 3 coming up a little later this afternoon.
Big result for Brad Benavides from the, and a little bit of good news for him as he says thank you to his car for good reason as well. That 6th win puts him level with 2015 champion Vitor Baptista when he took 6 race wins en route to him winning the championship for RP Motorsport. So a good omen of sorts that he's in proximity for a potential championship, and more importantly, finishing ahead of Francesco Simonazzi, stopping the Italian Stallion's efforts to try and thwart him at every turn. But back on the podium, Simonazzi, as well as Levente Revesh. Obviously still that decision still to be had at race control. Of course, they're looking into it post-race as the drivers now weigh in. But it's not over yet. We've got plenty of races to come, including one this afternoon.
Yeah, after that we had to Red Bull Ring, Barcelona and Monza as well to round out the season, and this era of the Euroformula Open Championship as well. New car we were talking about.
It's going to be a fond farewell for the 320.
It is, isn't it? For the actual chassis themselves, it's not technically farewell because we will be getting them an upgrade package, but for the 320 itself, it will be a fond farewell. Francesco Simonazzi, third position for BVM Racing. Once again, standing on the podium, the man second in the championship for the 8th time this season. Levente Revesh in second position, but his actions under investigation by the stewards, so we'll wait to see from him. But for the 6th time this season, it is Brad Benavides on top in the Euroformula Open Championship, and he's speaking with Alfredo.
Brad Benavides again on the highest step of the podium. How was it? Of course, with the rain, a lot of drifting today.
Yeah, I guess firstly, I'm happy for the redemption because yesterday I stalled it on the start, starting from pole, and it also was my birthday, so it wasn't the best gift I could have given myself yesterday, but I made up for it today, I guess. So happy for that, obviously. And then secondly, what a hectic race. I mean, almost godsend. Like, it was raining one lap, then dry one lap, then raining one lap, one sector, totally volatile. I mean, if you look back at FIA-F3 Silverstone this year, this is like a replica of that. It's like Silverstone 2.0 out here. But yeah, no, it was definitely really hectic and one of the hardest races of my life, so happy to climb the top step of the podium in this one specifically.
A delayed birthday present, but good for the championship.
Yeah, that's the main goal, and unfortunately it's a bit delayed. I would have liked it to be yesterday and today, but I guess we have to settle for what it is, and really happy for it, like I said.
Well done.
Volatile was the word Brad Benavides used there. Let's see how he scored that win. Well, remember, we had stalls for Simonazzi and Barrichello off the line, and Benavides had the best launch of them all. He pulled himself up from the rear of the field towards third position. He went side by side with Levente Revesh in the early stages of the race. Paolo Brajnik had his mirrors full either side. Cars were going by, with Benavides and Revesh initially going by into the Mistral chicane. And then it was Simonazzi's turn to try and make the move, with Jakob Bergmeister in tow as well. Brajnik would again have another two-sided moment with Barrichello on the inside, Bergmeister on the outside as well. Brajnik unfortunately ended up retiring from the race. And then the rain came and really added some spice to the race as cars struggled for grip. Brajnik, one of them, he ended up spinning and caught out Enzo Richer there as well. Now, Levente Revesh was asked to give the lead back to Brad Benavides after cutting the chicane at turns 1 and 2. But he certainly put up a fight before he did so, and then lost second place to Simonazzi shortly afterwards as well. But he kept fighting, did the Hungarian, kept trying to find his way back through. And he did so in the end with Simonazzi having a wide moment at Virage Dupont. But Brad Benavides was untroubled out at the front of the field, mastering the conditions and finding himself back on the top step of the podium. Redemption for yesterday, as he said. But still a very welcome result for the Floridian, as Francesco Simonazzi there on the right-hand side of the podium. His 8th appearance on the podium this season. 4 of them wins, of course, as well. Revesh, for now, that's his 5th podium, but for the 6th time this season, it will be the US national anthem that we hear for Brad Benavides. And of course, they're joined by the Motorpark representative and also Fernando Barrichello for the rookie class.
It's actually the first time since Hockenheim race 3 that Francesco Simonazzi has finished on the podium outside of winning a race. So it's been quite a long time since either P2 or P3.
Yeah, of course, had 2 fantastic wins in Budapest, did the Italian. And then we will have the American national anthem. The Pirelli representative handing the 3rd place trophy to Francesco Simonazzi. It's very much a growing collection in the Simonazzi household, as it is for Levente, I'm sure, as well.
Great to see Giuseppe Mazzotti as well watching on, as Francesco will accept his P3 trophy, but credit to the Motorpark team who continue to persevere up at the front in Euroformula, as they always do. Fernando Barrichello receiving the winning rookie trophy. But credit to Brad, you get the feeling that the title is edging closer and closer into his clutches. Can Francesco do anything to stop him?
Well, we've got 3 more rounds to find out, and of course 1 more race this afternoon as well, the second of our top 6 reverse grid races, the one based on the qualifying result. That'll be the rookie Enzo Richer starting on pole position. But we'll see you for the last race of the day, 6:20 local time.